In 1967, The Dirty Dozen turned a squad of criminals into legendary war heroes on screen. But decades later, the actors themselves lived through financial ruin, addiction, lawsuits, bankruptcy, and even government investigations that nobody saw coming. What really happened to them after the cameras stopped rolling? Let's find out. Because you won't believe where they ended up in 2026. Ernest Borgnine as General Worden. You sure know Ernest Borgnine, who played General Worden in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the tough military commander responsible for shaping a group of violent criminals into soldiers. Born on January 24, 1917, Borgnine was already 50 years old when he brought decades of experience and raw authority to the role. He wasn't polished or glamorous like many stars of that era, but that tough, working-class energy became exactly what audiences loved about him. Ernest Borgnine passed away on July 8, 2012, at the age of 95 due to kidney failure. Over a career that lasted more than 6 decades, he starred in legendary projects like Marty, which earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor, along with McHale's Navy, The Wild Bunch, and dozens of television appearances that kept him beloved across generations. He left behind 4 children, countless fans around the world, and a legacy built on playing ordinary men with extraordinary strength and humanity. But away from the cameras, Borgnine's life could become strangely chaotic. In 1954, while filming Veracruz in Mexico with Charles Bronson, the 2 actors wandered off during a break still wearing ragged outlaw costumes and carrying prop guns from the set. Local police mistook them for armed criminals and arrested them at gunpoint, forcing the film crew to rush to the station to explain the misunderstanding. Then came one of Hollywood's most infamous celebrity marriages. In 1964, Borgnine married Broadway superstar Ethel Merman, but the relationship collapsed after only 32 days. Borgnine later claimed that during their honeymoon, Merman became furious whenever fans recognized him more often than her and even hid his medication while he was sick. After the bitter divorce, Merman delivered one final insult by dedicating an entire chapter of her autobiography to Borgnine, only to leave every single page completely blank. Lee Marvin as Major John Reisman. Here's Lee Marvin, who played Major John Reisman in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the fearless officer assigned to lead a squad of violent convicts on a deadly mission. Born on February 19, 1924, Marvin was 43 years old when he took the role, and his cold, battle-hardened presence made him feel less like an actor and more like a real military commander who had already seen too much war. Lee Marvin passed away on August 29, 1987, at the age of 63 after suffering a massive heart attack. Following his death, he was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery, a rare tribute that reflected both his Hollywood fame and his real-life military service. Across decades of films including Cat Ballou, The Professionals, and Point Blank, Marvin became one of cinema's defining tough guys, leaving behind a legacy built on grit, realism, and an intensity few actors could imitate. What made Lee Marvin different from most war stars was that his trauma was real. During World War II, he served as a U.S. Marine in the Pacific and was badly wounded in the Battle of Saipan when Japanese machine gun fire struck his lower body and damaged his sciatic nerve. The injury nearly left him disabled, earned him a Purple Heart, and forced him out of the military. Years later, Marvin admitted those near-death experiences shaped the brutal realism audiences saw in his performances. Then another shock came off-screen. After separating from longtime partner Michelle Triola, Marvin became the center of Hollywood's first major palimony lawsuit when she demanded half of his $1.8 million fortune despite them never being legally married. The case lasted for years and turned Lee Marvin into the unwilling face of a legal precedent that still exists today. Donald Sutherland as Vernon Pinkley. Now we come to Donald Sutherland, who played Vernon Pinkley in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the strange and unpredictable military specialist who brought nervous energy and dark humor to the film. Born on July 17, 1935, Sutherland was just 32 years old when he took the role that helped launch him into Hollywood. With his tall frame, haunting voice, and unconventional charisma, he didn't look like a traditional movie star, and that was exactly what made him unforgettable. Donald Sutherland passed away on June 20, 2024, at the age of 88 after a long illness. Over a career spanning more than 6 decades and nearly 200 film and television projects, he built a legacy through classics like MASH, Ordinary People, Clute, JFK, and later the Hunger Games franchise, where a whole new generation discovered him as President Snow. He left behind 5 children, including actor Kiefer Sutherland, along with a reputation as one of cinema's greatest character actors. But behind that legendary career were some painful regrets and shocking controversies. During Animal House in 1978, Sutherland turned down 2% of the movie's profits because he thought the film would fail, accepting only $35,000 up front instead. The comedy became a massive hit, and the percentage deal he rejected was later estimated to be worth tens of millions of dollars. Around the same time, his anti-war activism with Jane Fonda during the Vietnam era drew intense attention from the U.S. government. Reports later revealed that the FBI and NSA monitored his calls and movements for years, treating the Hollywood actor like a potential security threat simply because of his political views. Yet despite financial mistakes, surveillance, and decades of pressure, Donald Sutherland still became one of the most respected actors of his generation. Charles Bronson as Joseph T. Wladislaw. Next, we turn to Charles Bronson, who played Joseph T. Wladislaw in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the tough convict who became the mission's only survivor. Born on November 3, 1921, Bronson was 46 years old when he took the role, and his cold, quiet intensity made him one of the film's most intimidating presences without needing many words at all. Charles Bronson passed away on August 30, 2003, at the age of 81 from pneumonia complicated by Alzheimer's disease. Over the course of his career, he became one of the world's biggest action stars through films like Death Wish, The Magnificent Seven, and Once Upon a Time in the West. Even decades after his peak, audiences still remembered him as the silent Avenger, whose harsh screen presence helped define action cinema in the 1970s and 1980s. But off-screen, Bronson had a reputation for being extremely difficult to work with. During the filming of Mr. Majestic, he reportedly exploded at the American crew over production delays and claimed European crews worked better, offending staff so badly that many refused to speak to him for the rest of the shoot. Then another bizarre scandal followed in the 1990s when a wealthy female fan he had never met died and unexpectedly left him more than $1 million in her will. Her family immediately sued to recover the fortune, forcing Bronson into a quiet legal settlement to avoid a public courtroom battle. Even outside the movies, controversy somehow always seemed to follow him. Jim Brown as Robert T. Jefferson. We come to Jim Brown, who played Robert T. Jefferson in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the fearless soldier behind the film's famous grenade scene. Born on February 17, 1936, Brown was 31 years old when he joined the cast, already known across America as one of the greatest football players alive. His size, speed, and confidence gave the character a level of realism few action stars could match. Jim Brown passed away on May 18, 2023, at the age of 87 from natural causes. Long after his death, he continued to be celebrated as one of the greatest athlete-turned-actors in entertainment history. Beyond his legendary NFL career with the Cleveland Browns, he built a successful Hollywood legacy through films like 100 Rifles, Slaughter, and Mars Attacks, while also becoming a major civil rights figure and public activist throughout his life. But one of the most shocking moments of Jim Brown's life happened right in the middle of filming The Dirty Dozen. Because bad weather delayed production, his NFL team owner threatened him with heavy fines if he failed to return in time for training camp. Instead of giving in, Brown stunned the country by announcing his retirement from professional football at age 30 right from the movie set, walking away while still at the top of the sport. Then, in 1969, he sparked another controversy in 100 Rifles with Raquel Welch when their interracial love scene triggered backlash and censorship across parts of America. But in the end, those risks only made Jim Brown an even bigger cultural icon. Stuart Cooper as Roscoe Lever. Coming to Stuart Cooper, the actor who played Private Roscoe Lever in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, one of the younger members of the dangerous military unit. Born on November 18, 1942, Cooper was only 25 years old during filming, and although his role was not among the film's biggest, the experience quietly changed the direction of his entire career. Unlike many of his co-stars, Stuart Cooper is still alive as of 2026 at the age of 83. After stepping away from acting, he built a respected career as an independent film director and screenwriter, earning major critical praise in Europe for films like Overlord, 1975, which won the Silver Bear at the Berlin International Film Festival. Today, Cooper lives a quiet life in England, occasionally teaching online directing masterclasses and helping supervise restorations of his classic cult films. His estimated net worth is believed to be around $2 million. But Cooper's path after The Dirty Dozen was far from easy. Even after the critical success of Overlord, the film struggled badly in the American market and failed to receive major theatrical distribution in the United States, pushing him dangerously close to financial collapse. Instead of chasing mainstream Hollywood success, Cooper shifted towards smaller documentary projects just to continue working and survive creatively. Over time, that quieter independent path ultimately became the career he truly wanted. George Kennedy as Major Max Armbruster. Now let's talk about George Kennedy, the actor who played Major Max Armbruster in The Dirty Dozen, 1967. One of the officers overseeing the dangerous mission. Born on February 18, 1925, Kennedy was already 42 years old during filming, his towering frame, gravelly voice, intimidating presence making him one of Hollywood's most believable authority figures. George Kennedy passed away on February 28, 2016, at the age of 91 from natural causes at his home in Idaho, USA. Long after his death, fans still remembered him as one of Hollywood's most dependable character actors, with major roles in films like Cool Hand Luke, Airport, and later the wildly successful The Naked Gun comedy trilogy. Across more than 200 acting credits, he built a career that lasted over 5 decades and reached multiple generations of movie audiences. But his career almost stayed trapped in one image forever. For decades, Kennedy was stuck playing rough soldiers, criminals, and intimidating authority figures because of his massive frame that stood nearly 2 meters tall and weighed over 140 kilograms. That made audiences genuinely shocked when he reinvented himself through the goofy Naked Gun comedies alongside Leslie Nielsen, revealing an unexpected talent for deadpan humor. Then came another risky gamble back in 1967 after Cool Hand Luke. When Warner Brothers showed little interest in supporting his Oscar campaign, Kennedy spent $5,000 of his own money on a trade magazine advertisement promoting himself for Best Supporting Actor. And against all odds, he won. In the end, the giant tough guy proved he understood Hollywood far better than people expected. Telly Savalas as Archer J. Maggot. Then there's Telly Savalas, who played Archer J. Maggot in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the group's most dangerous religious fanatic, whose unpredictable violence made even the other convicts uneasy. Born on January 21, 1922, Savalas was 45 years old during filming, his bald head, sharp voice, intense stare turning him into one of the most instantly recognizable tough guys of the era. Telly Savalas passed away on January 22, 1994, at the age of 72 after battling cancer. Even decades later, his image as the smooth, bald Hollywood icon remained unforgettable thanks to projects like Kojak, where his signature look, lollipop, and street-smart charisma made him a television legend. By the time of his death, he had built a career spanning film, television, music, and international stardom. But away from the spotlight, Savalas endured years of personal turmoil. His first marriage to Catherine Nicolaides collapsed shortly after his father died from cancer, leaving him emotionally drained and struggling financially while his acting career was still unstable. Then his second marriage to Marilyn Gardner fell apart amid public cheating scandals and growing fame, pushing him into depression and alcoholism during the height of his celebrity. In the late 1980s, Savalas was diagnosed with prostate cancer that later spread to his bladder, forcing him through brutal chemotherapy treatments. Ironically, the bald appearance caused by his illness became the exact image that helped define Kojak forever. He continued working almost until his final days, leaving behind an estate reportedly worth around $5 million. Clint Walker as Samson Posey. Now let's talk about Clint Walker, who played Samson Posey in The Dirty Dozen, 1967. The towering but soft-spoken giant of the group. Born on May 30th, 1927, Walker was 40 years old during filming. His massive 1.98-meter frame, calm presence, classic Western charisma, making him look powerful even when standing completely still. Clint Walker passed away on May 21, 2018, at the age of 90 from congestive heart failure in California, USA. Best known for starring in the hit Western series Cheyenne, Walker became one of television's earliest cowboy superstars, admired for his deep voice, rugged appearance, and larger-than-life screen presence. Even years after his death, fans still remembered him as one of the last true giants of classic Western entertainment. But behind the quiet cowboy image was a man who constantly fought against Hollywood control. In 1958, while Cheyenne was still hugely successful, Walker shocked the industry by walking away from Warner Brothers and refusing to continue filming because he felt the studio controlled his personal life and underpaid him despite making him a star. At the time, openly challenging a major Hollywood studio was almost unheard of, and many believed his career would be destroyed. Instead, Warner Brothers eventually backed down and renegotiated his contract. Then, years later, after his first 20-year marriage ended painfully, Walker finally found happiness again with Giselle Hennessy, only to lose her to cancer in 1994, a tragedy that reportedly pushed him into years of deep depression. Even one of Hollywood's strongest-looking men could not escape heartbreak. John Cassavetes as Victor R. Franco. Now here's John Cassavetes, who played Victor R. Franco in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the arrogant rebel constantly challenging authority inside the group. Born on December 9, 1929, Cassavetes was 37 years old during filming. His restless energy, sharp attitude, unpredictable intensity, making Franco feel dangerous in a completely different way from the other convicts. John Cassavetes passed away on February 3, 1989, at the age of 59 after suffering from severe cirrhosis of the liver. Even decades later, he continued to be celebrated as the father of American independent cinema through groundbreaking films like Faces, Opening Night, and A Woman Under the Influence. As both an actor and director, his raw, realistic style permanently changed the future of independent filmmaking in Hollywood. Ironically, the movie that earned Cassavetes his only acting Oscar nomination was a film he openly disliked. Despite his acclaimed performance in The Dirty Dozen, he privately dismissed the movie as commercial junk, admitting he accepted the role mainly to finance his own independent films. That obsession with artistic freedom eventually pushed his family to the edge financially while making A Woman Under the Influence. In 1974, Cassavetes secretly mortgaged his own house, burned through savings, and piled up debt just to keep the production alive. His wife, Gina Rowlands, and their children reportedly lived in fear of losing their home completely. In the end, the gamble paid off when the film became a masterpiece and earned 2 Oscar nominations, proving Cassavetes was willing to risk almost everything for his art. Robert Ryan as Colonel Everett Dasher Breed. Coming to Robert Ryan, the actor who played Colonel Everett Dasher Breed in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the proud, disciplined officer constantly clashing with Major Reisman. Born on November 11, 1909, Ryan was already 58 years old during filming. His stern voice, sharp posture, controlled intensity, making him perfect for authority roles and hardened military characters. Robert Ryan passed away on July 11, 1973, at the age of 63 after battling lymphoma. Across more than 3 decades in Hollywood, he became widely respected for powerful performances in films like The Setup, Bad Day at Black Rock, and The Wild Bunch. Even years after his death, many critics still considered him one of the greatest actors ever nominated for an Oscar without winning one. But away from the screen, Ryan was almost the complete opposite of the violent men he often portrayed. During his years at Dartmouth College, he became an undefeated heavyweight boxing champion for 4 straight years. Yet he personally hated violence and often admitted he felt deeply uncomfortable filming brutal fight scenes. Instead of spending his Hollywood fortune on luxury lifestyles, Ryan and his wife Jessica poured much of their savings into founding the progressive Oakwood School in Los Angeles in 1951. The school focused on artistic freedom, racial equality, and independent thinking at a time when those ideas were still controversial in many parts of America. In the end, one of Hollywood's toughest-looking actors quietly dedicated much of his real life to peace and education. Trini Lopez as Pedro Jimenez. We still remember Trini Lopez, who played Pedro Jimenez in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the skilled infiltrator chosen for the dangerous mission behind enemy lines. Born on May 15, 1937, Lopez was 30 years old during filming. His natural charm, smooth confidence, relaxed charisma, making him stand out in a cast filled with hardened soldiers and rough personalities. Trini Lopez passed away on August 11, 2020, at the age of 83 from complications related to COVID-19. Although many audiences remembered him from The Dirty Dozen, Lopez was already a worldwide music sensation long before the film, thanks to hits like If I Had a Hammer and Lemon Tree. Over the decades, he built a lasting legacy as one of the first Mexican-American entertainers to achieve major international crossover success in both music and film. But music was always the true center of Trini Lopez's legacy. In 1964, the legendary guitar company Gibson was so impressed by his popularity that they invited him to design his own signature guitar model. The result was the famous Gibson Trini Lopez model, instantly recognizable for its unusual diamond-shaped sound holes. Decades later, the guitar became one of the most collectible celebrity instruments in the world, used by stars like Noel Gallagher of Oasis and Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters, with rare original models selling for tens of thousands of dollars. In the end, Trini Lopez didn't just leave behind songs, he left behind a piece of music history itself. Richard Jaeckel as Sergeant Clyde Bowron. We know Richard Jaeckel, who played Sergeant Clyde Bowron in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, the tough guard assigned to supervise the dangerous unit throughout their training. Born on October 10, 1926, Jaeckel was 41 years old during filming. His rough voice, hardened expression, no-nonsense attitude making him a natural fit for military roles and gritty authority figures. Richard Jaeckel passed away on June 14, 1997, at the age of 70 after battling cancer in California. Over a Hollywood career spanning more than 5 decades, he appeared in countless war films, westerns, and television dramas, becoming one of the industry's most reliable character actors. Though he never reached leading man status, audiences consistently remembered him for bringing toughness and realism to nearly every role he played. But the final years of Jaeckel's life became painfully tragic. In 1994, Crushing debts forced him into bankruptcy with losses reportedly reaching $1.7 million, costing him his Brentwood home and most of the savings he had built over decades in Hollywood. He eventually moved into the motion picture retirement home while caring for his wife, who was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Then came one last heartbreaking twist. While Jaeckel was battling terminal cancer, director Joe Dante planned to reunite several Dirty Dozen actors for the film Small Soldiers, 1998, and had already reserved the voice role of Link Static specifically for him. Sadly, Jaeckel passed away before production could begin. In the end, one final reunion came just a little too late. Tom Busby as Milo Vladek. Finally, we have Tom Busby, who played Private Milo Vladek in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, one of the soldiers recruited for the dangerous suicide mission. Born on April 7, 1937, Busby was 31 years old during filming, his quiet screen presence and grounded acting style helping him blend naturally into the gritty military atmosphere of the movie. Tom Busby passed away on September 20, 2003, at the age of 66, after suffering a sudden heart attack in the United Kingdom. Unlike many actors from his era, Busby gradually stepped away from Hollywood and spent much of his later life living quietly across Europe. By the time of his death, he had accumulated a modest estate reportedly worth around $500,000 through acting royalties, teaching work, and private craftsmanship. But what made Busby unusual was how completely he turned away from fame. While many actors chased bigger careers, he eventually disappeared from the entertainment world almost entirely, choosing instead to live a quiet life focused on woodworking, teaching, and writing in small European towns. Friends later recalled that Busby once admitted he preferred the smell of fresh pine wood to the artificial glamour of Hollywood studios. In his final years, he struggled with heart problems but continued working despite declining health. Then on September 20, 2003, Busby suffered a fatal heart attack alone at his home in Glasgow, and by the time friends discovered him, it was already too late. In the end, the man who walked away from Hollywood also left the world in almost complete silence. That was The Dirty Dozen cast then and now. A legendary war movie filled with unforgettable stars, shocking tragedies, hidden scandals, and incredible real-life stories far beyond the battlefield. Which cast member surprised you the most after all these years? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more classic Hollywood journeys through time.